So part three, I want to focus on after I took my shahadda. So I took my shahadda, and I remember being in the masjid with the brothers. And I remember the brothers basically calling out my name, but they didn't call my regular name. They called me Tariq. And at first I didn't catch on to it. And they just kept saying Tariq, 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 Tariq. And finally it got to the point where I was just looking, and when they called my name, I'm like, looking like, huh? You talking to me? And the brother, he was like, yeah, I'm talking to you. I'm like, my name is not Tariq. My name, no. They said, no, that's your name. That's going to be your Arabic name. That's going to be your attribute. I'm like, why Tariq? They said, it's really pronounced Tariq. I'm like, why? They like, well, for the simple reason, Tariq means the nightcomer, right? And the way we look at it as, you're going to shine in the darkness no matter what. That's what we see in you. So I was like, okay. All right, alhamdulillah, I accept that. So I took on the name Tariq. Eventually, I took on the last name Shakur, Abdul Shakur, because I am a servant of the most grateful. Allah is the most grateful. Allah is, Shakur, the most grateful. But I'm also grateful for what Allah has done for me. Now, I started studying. I started picking up books. One of the books that I read was the Story of the Prophets. I believe it's by Ibn Kathir, right? And I read about the story of Yusuf alayhi salam. And when I read about how he was incarcerated for something he didn't do, that right there, it really got to me, right? Because it made me look at myself and my situation. Being in prison for something that I didn't do. And I was seeking an answer to that. Like, why was I in here for something I didn't do? What happened? You feel me? I understand that I wasn't doing all the right things on the streets. I understood that. So I always looked at it as like, okay, well, maybe I'm just paying the price for all the things that I did get away with, right? Because I wasn't perfect. I admit that. But when I learned about Yusuf alayhi salam's story, it made me look at my situation much different. And it made me realize, like, okay, I'm here because Allah has a bigger purpose for me. Allah has a much bigger purpose for me. And that's how I started to look at it. So I started to look at my situation as just, alhamdulillah. I'm not going to be upset about being in prison. I'm just going to accept it as this is Allah preparing me for something much bigger. And when I get out, I'm going to rise up like Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. I'm going to overcome what I went through. So let me do like the brother, El Hajj Malik Al-Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, did, and let me just educate myself. And that's what I did. I continued to read and educate myself. 3 years after taking my shahada, I got married. I met my wife, mashallah. We got married. She would always tell me, you're going to be an imam. You're going to be an imam. I'm like, no, I'm not going to be an imam. You're going to be an imam. No, I'm not. She said, yes, you are. And what she would do is she would send me books. She would order me books. She would send me books while I was in the prison. And she would send me material to learn how to read Arabic. And because of her sending that material, I learned how to read Arabic. She sent me material on how to give a khutbah. And I actually studied it just because she was sending it to me. All the books, everything she sent, I studied it, right? Mashallah. 3 years being married to her, we ended up going through some things. She ended up asking me for the talaqs. I agreed to give her the talaqs because I looked at it as, if being with me no longer makes you happy, then I love you enough to let you go. Wallahi, that's how I felt. So I felt that was the right thing to do. At that time, my sister just died of breast cancer. My grandmother was on her deathbed, and it was a hard time. Went through the divorce, went through those two deaths. Then probably about a month or two after, my brother was found murdered. And then I was just going through some things, and I didn't know how to handle it. But through that time, what ended up happening was the brother who was the imam of our community in here decided to step down. Now in prison, we like to create the community of the Amir, the Imam, and so on, right? Because we follow the instructions of Islam, teaching us that even if there's only two of us, one of us is the leader. So the brothers stepped down to be the Imam. The brothers asked me to step up because I was the most qualified at the time, meaning I knew how to give the khutbahs. I knew how to read and recite Arabic, and I knew how to do salat the proper way, even the prostration of forgetfulness, those things. So the brothers asked me, and I agreed. So I stepped up and I became the Imam, just like she would tell me. And I was giving the khutbahs, Juma, leading salat, studying, all those things. But it wasn't until after I decided to step down, because the brother who stepped down was done with certain personal affairs he had to attend to, and therefore he stepped back up. So when he stepped back up, I stepped back down, and I finally started to realize that I never processed what happened, the divorce, the deaths in the family, and so on and so on. Finally, Ramadan came, and I decided that during the second Ramadan, this was the Ramadan after I stepped down from being the Imam. So I was Imam during the first Ramadan, and then the second Ramadan I had came around, and I was like, okay, I'm not the Imam anymore. But I started processing what was really going on, and it made me just realize, like, you know what? No matter what, Allah is testing me. Once again, it's just a test. Everything I'm going through, everything I'm losing in prison is just a test. And either I'm going to hold on to my faith, put all my trust in Allah, or I'm going to fail the test. I'm going to allow the shaitan to come in and take advantage of my distress. And I didn't allow that to happen. So I just put my trust in Allah, and I just picked myself up, and I was like, you know what? Alhamdulillah. It is what it is. I'm at the end of the road anyways. This is about to be over. I'm about to be out of prison. So what am I tripping off of? You know, I'm just going to put my foot forward, and I'm going to push on, and I'm going to put my trust in Allah, and that's it, because I know Allah has bigger plans for me. No matter what, Allah has bigger plans. And that's the message that I want everybody to understand. Is like, no matter what you're going through in life, no matter how hard it may seem, just remember that it could always be worse. But every hardship is a blessing within it. Look, I went to prison for a crime that I didn't do, and I became Muslim. Alhamdulillah. Like, would I change anything? No, I wouldn't change anything, because if I do change anything, does that mean that I would still be a Muslim? Allah is the best of planners. That's it, that's all. In every hardship, there's a blessing within it. We understand that. Allah puts us through the pain and the hardship to test us, to bring us closer to Him. And that's what He did. He put me in prison to bring me closer to Him, to take my shahadda, to be a Muslim. MashaAllah. So no matter what, keep your head up. And I hope you picked something up from my story, and just understand that don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. You know, Baqarah, ayat 155 through 157. Everything is a test, but just be patient. Have sabr. I appreciate y'all for listening. Assalamu alaikum.